big of a shift would you quantify this as? Because President Biden, from the beginning, from October 7th, has said we are a steadfast ally with Israel. Now he never said we weren't an ally, but he did say that there will be conditions when it comes to artillery and weapons. So can you talk about that shift a bit?
There absolutely has been a shift, but I do think Biden and his administration are trying to walk a very fine line here. There was a press conference today where a spokesperson for the White House said very clearly the United States has not stopped being an ally to Israel, that the flow of other kinds of weapons will continue. The flow of aid to Israel will continue. The United States is not reevaluating its position as an ally of Israel. But at the same time, the U.S. is trying to send a message regarding certain kinds of offensive weapons related to certain kinds of operations in Rafah. There have been some suggestions that the U.S. would be somewhat more open to a more limited operation if Israel went into Rafah in a smaller way, if they focused on eliminating Hamas leadership, if they focused on using airstrikes to degrade the Hamas position in Rafah without a large ground offensive. Comments from the White House and from President Biden suggests that there may be some support for that kind of operation. So there has been a shift, but the White House, I think, is still conscious of trying to walk this line. And part of the reason for that is the backlash that President Biden has experienced over the last 24 hours. We've seen a lot of criticism from Republicans, including criticism from certain Senate Democrats. There have been pushback from, of course, from the Israeli government. Prime Minister Netanyahu has been saying that Israel will continue with its operation in Rafah, regardless of what the United States does. And I think President Biden is conscious of retaining his position, of retaining the U.S. position as an ally to Israel, and is wary of attracting too much criticism. So they're trying to have it both ways with this new shift in weapons policy. But right now, it's a little bit unclear as to how extensive that policy shift really is.
I want to talk about that response because there was a lot of backlash and it was swift. And you pointed this out on social media that it really can be divided into two sections here. On the one hand, people are critical that Republicans and Democrats that I've seen that they feel that President Biden is turning his back on Israel. On the other side, other people have suggested that this is too little, too late from the Biden administration. What do you make of this, and how is the Biden administration and President Biden himself doing towing that line down the middle?
Well, of course, any of these decisions, any of these actions have to be put in their appropriate context, right? As you noted at the top, this is 7 months into this war. This war has been going on for a long time. It's increasingly proven to be a drag on President Biden as he approaches this year's re-election, as he approaches this year's election contest against Donald Trump. I think the administration is trying to have it both ways here, where they retain support from Americans who continue to look favorably on Israel, continue to want to see the United States support Israel. They, I think, in their position, want to continue that relationship. Biden has been very clear that he is a strong friend to Israel. He has denounced the Hamas attack many, many times. But at the same time, there has clearly been a growing amount of criticism, a growing amount of frustration, particularly from the left wing of the Democratic Party, particularly from younger voters who have helped Biden in the 2020 election, have supported him so far. There's clearly been a lot of criticism from that camp towards his policies in support of Israel. The response to this shift in U.S. aid for Israel reflects 7 months of growing frustration from the left wing of the Democratic Party, as well as the criticisms that are coming from those who would support Israel. So in a way, it is a little bit too little, too late. And I think the fact that the Biden administration is trying to walk this line is making it even harder for them to address those criticisms.